People treat a new year like it's just another date on a calendar, something you can give meaning to only if you decide to. But what's coming in 2026 isn't just symbolic, it's energetic, and that energy won't meet you halfway. If you try to step into it, carrying exactly the same mindset, the same habits, the same internal story you're living today, you'll simply keep repeating the timeline you're already tired of. Some years move through you without asking anything of you. Others teach you, slowly or painfully. And then there are years that behave like gateways. They open only when you do. They shift only when you shift. And they refuse to respond to a version of you that has already completed its cycle. 2026 is one of those. It isn't listening for your resolutions. It's listening for who you're becoming. What sets this year apart isn't astrology or numerology or any grand collective cycle, even though those have their patterns too. What makes this shift real is something far more intimate. It's happening inside you. The space around you is already adjusting. You can feel it even if you can't name it yet. Your emotions feel unfamiliar. Your instincts speak up more often. What used to feel comfortable suddenly feels confining. Little tolerances you carried for years now feel like weights. If you watch closely, you'll notice that your inner landscape is reorganizing faster than anything outside can reflect it. That imbalance is usually the first sign that you're standing at a threshold. Most people mislabel this moment. They call it stress, confusion, burnout, misalignment, bad timing, anything that keeps them from admitting what it actually is. But none of those words capture it. What you're feeling is a withdrawal of identity. The version of you that survived the last decade has finished its work and can't be carried forward no matter how tightly you hold on. So when the discomfort shows up, don't treat it like failure. Treat it like movement. The next chapter can't be written by the same character that lived the last one. Manifestation isn't about begging the universe for a different life. It's about becoming legible to it in a new way. If you walk into 2026 shaped by old fears, old patterns, old relationships, old beliefs, or even old achievements, then the year can't reflect anything you're actually reaching for. The real tragedy is how many people spend months chasing change on the outside while ignoring the identity underneath that makes change impossible. Right now, in these final weeks before the shift fully locks in, something quieter and deeper is stirring. You might notice wanting things you can't justify yet. You might notice losing tolerance for dynamics you used to excuse. You might feel clarity sharpening, boundaries firming, patience thinning for anything that no longer matches your direction. All of that isn't random. It's not coincidence. It's the signal that you're already being rewired for what's ahead. This isn't about changing your personality or forcing yourself into some new role. What's actually happening is a divergence in resonance. You're stepping out of a frequency band that once fit you, and the year ahead is simply operating on a different one. If you look at it through a basic quantum lens, it makes sense. When a system shifts upward in vibrational coherence, anything that can't meet that new rhythm stops syncing. Not because it's wrong, but because it no longer belongs in the same state. The mismatch becomes obvious, even if you can't explain it intellectually. That's why you can't rush into manifesting 2026 from the emotional tone or identity you carried in 2023, 2024, or even this year. Do that, and you will just rebuild cycles you're already finished living. The year can't respond to who you used to be. It can only reflect the version of you it was designed for. The part most people miss is this. This shift doesn't demand more hustle. It demands precision. It demands clarity in identity, not intensity in effort. The universe isn't auditing your dreams 10 years from now. It's matching what you are right now, underneath the surface, in the patterns you repeat without thinking. And right now, that pattern is unspooling. It's dissolving, reorganizing, widening, shedding, stabilizing, often all at once, which is why it feels so chaotic on the inside. That's why your emotions can't seem to make sense. That's why your attractions and aversions feel unfamiliar. That's why intuition starts speaking louder even when you can't justify it with logic. You're not losing yourself. You're outgrowing a version of yourself that has already done its job. 2026 isn't sitting around waiting for you to feel ready. It's waiting for you to become legible, to step into a state it can actually meet. If you act from fear, or from survival, or from the stories you learned years ago, you will distort the year before it ever has a chance to unfold. But when the internal alignment catches up, when you choose consciously or unconsciously the identity your future already recognizes, the year stops being something you chase and becomes something that moves toward you. Once you understand it, this threshold stops feeling like danger and starts feeling like an invitation. The kind of invitation that only appears when your next path is close enough that you can almost feel its warmth. There's something happening inside you that you may not have vocabulary for yet. A gentle unraveling, a soft, unavoidable turning. It isn't panic, and it isn't clarity. It's more like stepping out of one room into another without noticing the doorway until you're already through. You're not falling apart. You're opening. And this didn't begin when you woke up feeling off or restless. This process has been building quietly for a long time, in ways your conscious mind never tracks. You felt it in little ways, when habits you once relied on suddenly feel heavy, when conversations feel mismatched, when certain people drain you faster than they used to, when emotional loops stop making sense, when your body itself recoils from repetition. These aren't mood swings. They're structural signs, the collapse of an identity that no longer has a future. Identity never disappears overnight. It loosens in layers. It releases without drama. One day, you simply notice that you're thinking differently, wanting differently, interpreting reality through a new emotional language. And that is not regression. That is what it feels like when you stop surviving long enough to finally expand. From a neurological point of view, what's happening inside you is a pruning process. Your brain is letting go of predictive patterns that once kept you alert, cautious, small, apologetic, or limited. Pathways that protected you in earlier seasons are dissolving now because they no longer fit the direction your life is turning. That's why you can feel strangely quiet and strangely overwhelmed at the same time. Your system has stopped leaning on old threat responses, but it hasn't fully grounded the emotional architecture of the next version of you. You're suspended in between structures, between identities, between timelines. In quantum terms, this is what's called an interference gap. A brief moment when the coherence of the old state breaks before the new one locks in. It's sensitive. It's raw. Your senses sharpen. Your emotions flare and soften without warning. Your intuition speaks louder than logic, and you can't explain any of it, which is exactly how it's meant to be. Explanation belongs to the mind. But this shift isn't happening in the mind. It's happening underneath it, in the field that organizes how you meet the world. And here's the truth most people never hear. The identity that carried you to this point cannot carry you into what comes next. Not because it failed, but because it completed its purpose. The version of you that learned to endure, to fight, to hide, to negotiate, to please, to shrink, to overfunction, to expect pain, to hold everything together. That version did extraordinary work. It kept you alive when you didn't have clarity, when you didn't have support, when you didn't have the space to imagine anything larger. But you're no longer living in that chapter. And when life moves from survival into creation, survival identity stops being a tool and starts becoming a barrier. The universe isn't telling you to repair that old self. It's inviting you to let it go. Because the year ahead isn't designed for someone who fears repeating the past. It's designed for someone who already knows they are no longer defined by it. If you drag the old identity with you, everything in 2026 will bend to match it. You'll replay cycles you thought you were done with. You'll misread opportunities. You'll sabotage yourself without realizing why. The year won't feel different because you won't actually be different. Right now, the strongest move you can make is to stop fighting the collapse. Don't patch it. Don't justify it. Don't explain it. Don't panic about it. Let it finish. Let the emotional weight fall off. Let old connections loosen. Let outdated habits feel foreign. Let the old identity lose its grip on its own. You are not losing yourself. You're not losing yourself. You're losing the version of yourself that kept you from stepping into who you always were meant to be. And it feels personal because it is. When a future identity starts exerting influence on the present, you can feel it long before you can name it. You begin leaning toward choices the old you would have dismissed as too bold, too fast, too unfamiliar. You begin craving boundaries you were taught not to set. You begin feeling pulled toward a life that you can't fully picture yet, but trust more than anything you've known. That's how you know something new is forming. You're drawn toward a direction you can't explain, but you can feel it in your chest, like recognition without memory. If this is landing for you, if you can sense that gentle unraveling, or feel the emotional exhaustion of carrying an identity that no longer fits, or notice that something quieter, stronger, more truthful is rising underneath all of it, then pause for a moment and let yourself acknowledge it. Not as a ritual or performance, but as honesty. Allow the collapse instead of fighting it. Because whatever unfolds in 2026 will depend on what you're willing to release in the final stretch of now. And in the next truth, we go deeper. The version of you already living in 2026 isn't a dream or a possibility. It already exists in the field as a coherent identity. Timelines don't behave like roads you walk onto when the date changes. They behave like frequencies that reach backward, touching you through instinct, contrast, desire, emotional discomfort, sudden clarity, impulses that feel too aligned to dismiss. The future isn't waiting ahead of you. It's speaking to you. You felt it. Those moments of sudden certainty with no explanation. The urge to choose before you can overthink it. The feeling that something is rising even when you can't define it. The attraction toward environments, people, projects, or versions of yourself that feel like home even though you've never lived there before. The restlessness that shows up like you've outgrown the room you're standing in. None of this is coincidence. It's communication. Future influence isn't mystical fantasy. Physics already acknowledges that causality isn't always linear. When a future state reaches coherence, it begins to pull present conditions toward it. That's why you feel contradictions inside yourself. Your mind is still interpreting reality through yesterday's identity, while your energy is already reorganizing around tomorrow's. You're being guided by a version of yourself that already knows how your story unfolds. And that version never speaks in panic or confusion. It speaks in impulses that arrive before your mind starts negotiating. The sudden willingness to say yes when you would normally hesitate. The instinct to walk away when something has become too small. The desire to simplify, to close old doors, to tell the truth, to stop performing, to stop apologizing, to stop waiting for permission. This is contact, not chaos. When two identities overlap, the emotional landscape becomes intense. You feel hope wrapped in fear, expansion wrapped in grief, clarity wrapped in uncertainty, excitement wrapped in pressure. This isn't you falling apart. It's you being stretched between who you were and who you're becoming. The real question isn't whether your future self is signaling you. The real question is whether you're listening. You'll know when you are, because you'll start moving in ways that don't match your history, but perfectly match your potential. You'll guard your peace without guilt. You'll choose alignment over familiarity. You'll feel impulses you can't defend logically, but can't ignore energetically. You'll stop asking for permission to be the person you already are. These impulses feel urgent, not because time is running out, but because coherence pulls strongly. When a timeline stabilizes, it tightens its influence. That's why 2026 feels close even though the calendar hasn't caught up yet. But here's the part very few people realize. Ignoring these signals doesn't erase your future. It only delays your alignment with it. Timelines don't punish you. They simply shift around who you choose to be. If you stay loyal to versions of yourself built in 2022, 2023, or 2024, those versions will keep shaping what you experience. They were stepping stones, not destinations. The self you're becoming is already speaking through every instinct that feels too pure to doubt. The discomfort you're feeling isn't resistance, it's misalignment. The moment you follow instinct instead of fear, something inside you realigns on its own. You've felt it before. Ideas rise up that feel almost too big for the life you're living. But they're not fantasies. They're signposts. Those dreams that feel strangely specific. Those gentle pushes telling you to let go, to shift, to trust, to change something in how you show up. That's not coincidence. That's instruction. Your future self isn't loud or dramatic. Your mind is just noisy enough to miss the cues. 2026 isn't going to shape itself around what you hope for. It's going to shape itself around how you respond to what you're already feeling. The future you want isn't hiding. It's broadcasting. You're just learning how to tune in. And really, the only thing standing between you and alignment is whether you're willing to answer. That space is meant to be uncomfortable. It isn't logical. It isn't clean. It isn't something you can dissect or justify. It's something you walk through. Right now, as the tone of 2026 begins to form around you, you're standing exactly there. This isn't about a new year. It's about a new identity. One that isn't built on pressure or survival or pleasing people who never saw you clearly in the first place, but on coherence, on honesty, on the quiet recognition that you've outgrown certain versions of yourself. You can already feel it. Old behaviors feel foreign. Old fears feel lighter. Old emotional loops don't even spark anymore. You're not working to change. You're realizing you can't stay the same even if you tried. That's how a new identity begins. Not through force, but through necessity. Most people try to build a new life while carrying assumptions that no longer serve them. wounds they never healed, habits that slow them down, expectations that keep them small. Then they wonder why everything repeats. Nothing changes when the frequency doesn't. A new timeline can't attach itself to an old identity. The shift isn't happening because you're being pressured to improve. It's happening because you're being invited to align, to resonate, to choose the version of yourself your future already recognizes. That's the real heart of quantum manifestation. The future shows up not because you wish for it, but because you've become someone capable of holding it without breaking. And here's what makes 2026 unique. It amplifies whatever identity you stabilize before stepping into it. Walk in scattered, it magnifies chaos. Walk in hesitant, it magnifies doubt. Walk in coherent, it magnifies clarity. So the choice you're standing in isn't about goals, it's about self-definition. Are you staying loyal to the version shaped by fear and scarcity? Or are you stepping into the version shaped by trust and inner truth? The universe isn't waiting for proof, it's waiting for clarity. Which version of you should I reflect back? Think about what you've felt lately. The urge to simplify, the need to protect your peace, the discomfort around old environments, the pull toward new boundaries, new habits, new priorities, new honesty. These aren't random impulses, they're invitations. When you ignore them, nothing explodes. You just stay the same. When you follow even one of them, the entire pattern of your life begins to reorganize. You become readable. You become matchable. You become someone your future self can actually meet. At that point, manifestation stops being something you chase and becomes something you embody. Right now, you're at a quantum choice point. Not a dramatic leap, just a subtle commitment. You don't need to rebuild everything overnight. You just need to choose the version of yourself that feels like truth. Because the universe doesn't mirror your desires. It mirrors your identity. And the identity you choose as this year closes is exactly what 2026 will reflect back with precision. So ask yourself, are you choosing the person who still fears repeating the past? Or the person who finally understands they are no longer that person? Are you choosing hesitation or instinct? Are you waiting for permission or recognizing that alignment is permission? Your future self already knows. You can feel it. That gentle pull, that quiet recognition, that sense that the life you've been preparing for is finally close enough to touch. But insight isn't enough. Inspiration isn't enough. You need structure, something that helps your mind, your nervous system, and your energy stabilize long enough for the shift to actually take root. Everything you need to close this year with clarity and step into 2026 with coherence is already laid out in the Quantum Rebirth Transformation Guide. Designed to help you release what no longer fits, reset your internal rhythm, and anchor the identity that's already emerging beneath the noise. If this stirred something in you, that's the doorway. The next step is already waiting. Your next timeline is forming. Choose for the sake of the person you're becoming.